the latest figures,
You've
so
had
we've got to make
14
sure
years to come up with some ideas on this, and we have. We've got We've got a workforce plan for the NHS. We've got a workforce plan for social care.
You don't have a workforce plan for social care.
It will inform a
vote
on the floor of the House of Commons from your democratically elected representatives. We'll be able to cap the visas.
It is absolute rubbish. You've had 14
about the issues that the question of
and net migration has gone up.
You have no idea. You have no workforce strategy. You have no industrial strategy. You have no
Are you talking to me or Rishi?
Thank you.
Are you talking to me or Rishi? Because that is exactly.
You have been in the election campaign. What's your plan?
Thank you.
You
thank
haven't
you.
got one.
I'm going to thank you, Angela Rayner. Stephen Flynn.
Angela Rayner faced intense pushback as a confrontational audience challenged her during a fiery interview, putting her on the spot and forcing her into a difficult defence. This is how the situation unfolded.
I'd like to actually ask the members of Parliament that are present on the panel what part of democracy they don't actually understand. All right, well, Parliament had a ballot, did it not, in order to have the referendum. They voted 6-1 to have the ballot. You took that ballot, you took the chance, we had the referendum, you didn't get the answer that you wanted, and now you want to turn it round.
The studio was packed as question time continued, with BBC cameras capturing every moment. Angela Rayner sat on the panel, ready to defend Labour's record, until one question cut through the noise. An audience member, clearly frustrated with the political spin, confronted her over democracy, his tone steady and unwavering. In that instant, the energy in the room shifted. This was no longer a routine debate. It had become a sharp, unmistakable challenge that changed everything.
Government, can I have a ballot?
Can I?
Applause swept through the studio as heads nodded and voices rose in support. It wasn't just one question, it tapped into a deeper frustration among voters who feel sidelined and unheard. In that moment, he didn't speak only for himself, he voiced what many across the room were already thinking.
She and I have never really met. Certainly never spoken to each other, despite being in this house together for 7 years. We have some things in common, not much. We were both born in 1980, although I'm older and wiser than she is. People often think we're both much younger than we really are, because we've got such great skin and good hair. And we're both known as being quite feisty.
Rayner's expression tightened, a brief, uneasy smile crossing her face as she shifted in her seat, clearly feeling the pressure. Rather than address the question head-on, she tried to redirect the discussion, moving the spotlight elsewhere. It was a familiar political manoeuvre, but this time it fell flat. The audience immediately recognised the sidestep, sensing hesitation where confidence was expected. In that charged moment, control no longer rested with the panel. It belonged to the people watching, listening, and demanding straight answers.
Yes, is one of the most powerful women in Westminster, with a reputation of being fiery and outspoken.
But getting to her senior political position hasn't been easy, not just because of her gender, but because also of her working class background.
Well, to tell us about life as Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, we're joined now by Angela Rayner. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, thank you.
Have you here. It's funny because you see you in Westminster doing your job, carrying out your role. I didn't actually know too much about your background until I read this, and I'm not sure, I mean, a lot of people will do, but a lot of people won't. But it was that background and your upbringing that really shaped you, who you are as you sit here on the sofa today.
Yeah, and it was crazy when I first went into Parliament because, you know, the whole building is like going to Hogwarts. It's a bit surreal, you know, and I still think that, you know, when I stand at the dispatch box and you think of the people that have stood there and been there before me, it's a bit like, wow, I'm here and I'm doing this, you know, so it does feel a bit surreal from growing up on a council estate and, you know, having my son at 16 and basically, you know, being very poor and having very big challenges. And then all of a sudden mixing with people who went to private education, who have got loads of wealth. And I remember having a joke once with one of the MPs talking about the issues on our estate because there was horses churning up the grass on the estate. And he went, oh, we have llamas on our estate. I'm like, no, I'm talking about the council estate. and the horses that were just left in the wild. So it was a bit, you know, those moments where two worlds collide.
When you left school at 16, you were told that you wouldn't amount to anything.
Yeah.
What was life like for you then, and life at home?
You see, this is the thing, because in Parliament, people do see me as quite brash and quite confident, but part of the reason I'm like that is because when I was 16 and I was pregnant, the shame and the humiliation that people made me feel, like, you know, institutions of government, you know, doctors, police, they were there above you and they were there to do things and you had to keep order. They weren't people like you.
Yes.
So I always felt know your place. So I felt that humiliation and shame then. So now I'm like, no, I'm proud of who I am and I'm proud of the people that I represent and the people that I grew up with. So now I don't have any cares about speaking my mind and being, because everyone's got unique talents. It doesn't matter where they're from. Whether
Angela Rayner often emphasises her working class background, framing it as central to her identity as Labour's voice for the people. Yet when pressed on exactly whom she represents, she falters, struggling to give a clear answer. She positions herself as different from other politicians, insisting that her words and actions set her apart. By sharing glimpses of her personal side, she aims to connect with voters, hoping it makes her more relatable and shows her as more than just a politician.
What is the Deputy Prime Minister's definition of working people?
Definition of working people are the people that the Tory party have failed for the last 14 years.
Well, the Deputy Prime Minister stood on a manifesto promising not to raise taxes on working people. It now appears she can't even define who working people are. So I'll give her another go. There are 5 million small business owners in this country. Are they working people?
I don't know how the shadow Deputy Prime Minister can stand there with a straight face when it was the small businesses, the working people of this country that paid the price of them crashing the economy, sending interest rates scoring. I think he needs to learn his own lessons in opposition.
Oliver Downer! Well, I think the whole House will have heard the Deputy Prime Minister
In Parliament, Rhea has repeatedly faced calls to define what a working person really is. A simple question, yet one she struggles to answer. She dodges, falters and leans on vague talk of fairness and opportunity instead of offering clarity. The problem is clear. Labour positions itself as the party of the working class. But if its deputy leader cannot even define the people she claims to represent, how can the party truly fight for them? It's more than awkward. It speaks volumes.
The Labour Party is very keen to reduce class sizes to under 30 for 5, 6 and 7-year-olds. Why is that important?
Well, the last Labour government managed to achieve this for the younger class sizes, and it's transformative because if the class sizes are too big, then children are either the children that are not as loud as others will get lost in the system, or those that have behavioural problems will not get the support that they need. We know that the evidence is that class sizes over 30 do affect the attainment and the learning for all children in the classroom. So it's important for the outcomes for children to make sure they get the education they deserve.
How many children are we talking about? How many children are taught in classes that size?
Well, there's variance in terms of class sizes over 30 and those that there's even some that are over 40, to be quite honest with you, and there's quite a substantial...
What number of pupils are we talking about?
Well, there's quite a substantial amount of pupils that are... I haven't got the numbers on me at hand, Nick, but it is quite a substantial amount of children that are in class sizes that are over 30 now.
Angela Rayner, are we talking about 50 children, 5,000 children, 5 million children? I mean, how many are we talking about?
It's a significant number. It's not 500 or 5,000. It's significant.
You've said that 3 times. Do you not think it would be an idea to have a sense of how many children we're talking about? You are the Shadow Education Secretary.
Yeah, well, I do have a sense of that, but I don't have the figures.
Could you give me the number then, please?
The public sees it clearly. The pressure of rising living costs, job insecurity and taxes falls heaviest on the middle and lower classes. They don't need a definition of a working person. They live it every day. Rhea, meanwhile, only talks about these struggles. That's the real problem. She didn't just sidestep the question. She had no answer at all. For someone claiming to represent ordinary people, that failure speaks louder than words.
You describe yourself as working class. Sakir, define working class.
No, working class is families that work for their living, earn their money through going out to work every day, not through other means.
Middle classes do that?
Well, working class families have the ordinary hope to get on in life. I mean, this has been the story.
Middle classes have that?
Yeah, of course they do. Of course they do.
So what's the distinction?
People will say to me, "Well, look here. You've come a long way.
Yeah, but you went to state school.
Yeah, but that is the ordinary hope of the working class, which is to have a decent education, to get a decent, secure job, to get a car, to get have a nice holiday, to have.
But again, isn't that the middle class too, Sakir? Everything you just listed? No,
it is. Yeah, it is, and that's why many people go on their life journey from what you might call working class to middle.
In Parliament, Rayner was asked point blank whether the UK's 5 million small business owners count as working people. Her answer was a deflection, a swipe at the Conservatives, anything but clear. That's the core issue. Labour claims to champion struggling families, yet its policies often do the opposite. Higher taxes, rising costs and decisions made far from the everyday struggles of ordinary Brits. Critics argue Rayner has become part of the very political bubble she once challenged. The Angela Rayner who spoke for working people now appears out of touch, and voters are noticing. Democracy relies on fair elections, yet in a move that sparked national outrage, Labour cancelled votes in key areas where Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, was gaining traction. The result, 5.5 million people stripped of their right to vote. This wasn't mere bureaucracy, it was a calculated move to stifle opposition. Outrage spread as critics labelled it a direct attack on democracy. With Labour shutting down the very competition that working class voters once relied on for representation, the party is acting more like an authoritarian force than one that trusts its voters. Discussing policies is one thing, blocking people from having a say in their future is another. Angela Rayner can be confident when speaking to Labour supporters, but under scrutiny, the cracks are obvious. In a tense exchange with BBC's Laura Kuenberg, she struggled to justify Labour's shifting policies, leaning on contradictions, vague statements, and political spin instead of clarity. The bigger problem is that even sympathetic journalists reveal her weaknesses. If she can't face tough questions in an interview, how can she steer a nation? Each unconvincing answer chips away at her credibility, and Labour's reputation could be next. The UK's housing crisis is already critical. Families wait years for council homes, rents skyrocket, and homelessness rises. So when Rayner and Labour proposed policies prioritising migrants for council housing, outrage erupted. Citizens who've paid taxes, worked hard, and followed the rules watch as newcomers are given preference, leaving locals stuck on waiting lists. Frustration has boiled over into anger, and the backlash is loud and clear.
Prime Minister Angela Rayner has given permission for 6 councils so far to increase their council taxes, which is going to affect millions of households.
From April, people will see up to a 10% hike in their bills.
Critics branded it a betrayal of working-class Brits, the very people Labour claims to represent. Rayner tried to soften the blow with rhetoric about fairness, human rights and inclusivity. But words cannot mask reality. The public sees the consequences. With every policy that misses the mark, Labour's credibility erodes further. Once a firebrand and a genuine voice for ordinary people, Angela Rayner now risks losing the trust she was meant to embody, with each misstep chipping away at her standing.
The government, let's talk about the fact that they were well aware of what happened, or what could happen at Grenfell, and they failed to act. What is this government going to do?
Well, first of all, reading Sir Martin's summary and the volumes that he's collated, the failures were systemic. Absolutely everybody, whether it was a regulator, whether it was those that had the materials, whether it was the government, whether it was the council, the tenant management organiser, every single layer failed to recognise and to protect those residents at Grenfell, and it is absolutely shocking to see that. And this government has got to make sure that we accelerate remediation. I've looked at it and I'm not happy with the pace that we're at the moment, and we've got to look at the 58 recommendations that Sir Martin has come forward and make sure that we do everything we can to meet those and go beyond to ensure that people are confident that
One of the things that was really striking to me was that greed.
Angela Rayner has faced tough live TV scrutiny, failed to define who working people are, dodged hard-hitting interviews and supported controversial policies, and the fallout keeps mounting. Voters who once viewed her as a strong leader now see someone struggling to defend her own party, and the consequences go beyond her. Labour as a whole risks losing credibility if it continues ignoring voters, pushing unpopular policies and silencing opposition. The backlash will not stay in the headlines, it will hit at the ballot box. Rayner's future is uncertain, and Labour's even more so. Without a serious course correction, the next election could be brutal, and this time the people will have the final say.